Families. This week on Community Chat, Hagen Nares PLC track record and brain injury lawyers is speaking with Hannah Proff, owner of Proff Law, Juvenile and Criminal Defense. She is here to talk about her journey in starting her law firm, what it's like to be a client of hers, and a recap of what a juvenile defense case looks like and the important things all community members need to know about these specific types of cases. We're so excited to have you here. Thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you, Caitlin. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm so excited to talk to you because you do a really important type of work. You focus primarily with juveniles. I know you do other cases and you'll tell us about us, but you do a lot of great work for the community. And I want you to share all about that. But what's most exciting is your background and how you even got into this. And that's what we most want to learn about right now. So I would love for you to just share, how did you even decide to start Proff Law and ending up in this beautiful office that's behind you?
Thank you so much. So to go way back just for a minute, I grew up in rural Alaska, in a prison, thinking about prisons and how folks who were in prisons interacted with the communities where they came from. And I got really interested in that as a young person and always knew that I wanted to do something with my career where I interfaced with folks who had been formerly incarcerated, folks who were feeding into that system that I grew up around. I was born and raised, my parents are both high school kind of dropouts. My mom went to school later in life. So I didn't know any lawyers. I met my first lawyer at 19. So I first thought I wanted to be a social worker. I went through a lot of different iterations of what I would do with that community. And eventually I saw a public defender in action and I said to my boss at the time, "What's that job? I want that job." Because I just saw someone who was standing up for people's rights, using the law to advance their perspective. I love to argue. I love to have, make my point, use facts to make my point. I saw a public defender in action and my whole life changed. I knew that I wanted to be an attorney and specifically a defense attorney. So after law school, I went to the Colorado State Public Defender. I was a public defender for 7 years. I loved that work. It was just too high volume for me. I couldn't keep up. I couldn't do the work at the level that I wanted to do it. I'm not saying public defenders don't do an amazing job, but I couldn't figure out how to do the work at the level I wanted to with that many cases. So I decided to leave. I had a few different jobs at a few different law firms. And eventually 6 years ago, started my own law firm. And really the foundational principle behind Proff Law, my firm, is holistic criminal and juvenile defense. So what that means to me is I really want to understand the full person. People come to my office often on their worst day. It's funny because when I answer the phone, and I do answer my own phone, so if you call, you'll probably talk to me. When I answer my phone, I always say, "Well, how are you doing?" And it's a funny question to ask because usually people aren't great when they're calling a criminal defense attorney or a juvenile defense attorney. They're in trouble, their kid's in trouble, they're stressed. My whole job is to use my 15 years of experience in the courtroom and in the community to help triage and address all of the issues that the family or that client are facing. I understand we're talking about maybe the worst moment in their life, whether that's a crime they did commit that they need mitigated, or when they're falsely accused of a crime, or they just are so confused by the whole process. And I really come in with my trial skills, my network of professionals, experts, social workers, investigators, whoever I need to bring on my team. And that's what I love about my model is it's just me. I have a paralegal. I don't minimize her role, but I'm the only lawyer. And that means that if I need to hire another lawyer to help me on a case who has a specific practice area or expertise, I can do that. Or an investigator who has a specific practice area or expertise. I can build those teams that best suit my client and their needs. And that's what I really love about my model. It's sort of a boutique criminal juvenile defense law firm model that focuses on the whole person to address that criminal or juvenile case.
I think that's fantastic. And I wanted to talk about a specific niche that you work with, which is juveniles. And I know that you represent everybody, but juveniles specifically, you've become really known for. And there's a small subset of attorneys that do juvenile cases. For instance, I specialize in juvenile traumatic brain injury cases, and that was naturally my tie to learn about you, someone also specializing in juvenile cases. Talk to us about how you got into this. What is it like from the perspective of a parent that is going to approach and call you about a case with their child and what those cases look like?
So it is so hard for parents. I know, all the parents listening here, 100% of my clients' parents would rather they were the one in trouble than their kids, right? I am personally not a parent. I'm an auntie. I know what it is like to love children deeply. 100% of parents would rather in trouble than their kids. So the amount of stress that a juvenile delinquency case puts on the young person and the entire family is immense. So it is so important to have an attorney who is good at interacting with kids. I pride myself in being someone who builds rapport well with young people. I regularly work on cases with neurodivergent young people, maybe a young person who we're better off taking a walk instead of sitting at my office to have a conversation about their case. Or, my office is filled with fidget toys, like, here, take a spinner, like, let's play with this yo-yo while you tell me about X, Y, or Z. So I really try to come at cases from a youth-centered approach, and also understanding I've got to build out that support for the whole family, because the kid is in trouble, mom's going to need support. And although I'm not watching out for mom's legal interests, I'm her son's attorney, I might be, recommending services or classes or books that mom or dad or grandma or guardian, whomever, can read and learn and understand. The main thing I always want families to know is that juvenile delinquency is normative, meaning, God forbid, someone uncovered a videotaping of my entire juvenile time, there would be some delinquency. It's normal to cross boundaries as a juvenile, whether you're destroying property, throwing a rock through a window, shoplifting something, drinking, smoking, right? Because your prefrontal cortex, and here I am talking to a brain expert, but we all know this about it's under construction. That's a beautiful thing about a young brain. It's why you've got to protect it, watch out for it. It's also why we as a society have to ensure that we treat youthful people differently than we treat adults when they mess up, because naturally their prefrontal cortex doesn't have those synapses that you and I have when we're making decisions. And so I really come at this from a science perspective. I understand brain. I have the right experts, the right therapists, the right modalities to guide my clients towards. But I also come at it from a place of really, I really care deeply about young people. I have some of the coolest clients on earth. Like, no matter what they're accused of doing, I represent all types of young people into all kinds of things. They've turned me on to, anime and all different. I've learned so much. I'm constantly learning from my clients, and I love that about my work. And I practice holistic juvenile defense. So looking at the whole child, making those recommendations to the family. So when I meet with families, I just tell families, like, if I'm the right lawyer for you, if you really want to dig deep, address all of these issues, that's going to help me mitigate the case, potentially get a case dismissed, represent your child in the best way possible. And I pride myself in that work and really love it. I find working with young people so rewarding. And every year I get college graduation invites. And one of my clients just got into law schools. I try maybe a little bit because he saw me in action. Who knows? Maybe not, but super proud of that young person. So I just love doing that work.
I think that's fantastic. And before we leave, I would hate to not have you be able to give some kind of training tidbit for the community. Now, obviously, I talk all the time about truck wreck and brain injury law, and I haven't been able to talk about just basic criminal defense. What are some tidbits and training things that the basic community should know about, just generally about the type of work you do, or maybe something that they don't know about that they should be on the lookout for?
I think I'm going to go really simple with this answer, Caitlin. And I think the reason for that is every time I talk about this, people seem surprised, even though it's such a basic tenet of criminal law. And that is really thinking about the right to remain silent and remembering that right. You have a right to remain silent when interacting with a police officer. That is everything from if you get pulled over for a speeding ticket and they officer walks up next to your car and says, do you know how fast you were going? And as soon as you saw the lights, you looked down and saw you were going 84. That's just human nature, right? You should not say 84. You should remain silent, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. And it's really, really important with young people, because so many of us who are parents or parenting in some way, which we all are doing that, we tell young people, admit, you took the cookie, or you took the $10, or you hit your sister. You need to admit what you did wrong, and that's going to make things better for you. So it's really hard then for parents and young people to flip the switch on that and say, no, never mind. You're not going to admit. We're going to get you a lawyer. We're going to take all of this seriously. We're going to remain silent. And folks feel guilty about that, and you shouldn't feel guilty. I can tell you, I have represented plenty of police officers' children, and they all remain silent without me telling them, because the police officers know. And the work police officers do is important. They're going to investigate the case. You don't need to give them any answers, and especially if you're innocent, because police interrogations really don't keep themselves open to stories of innocence. So my advice, whether you're innocent or guilty or somewhere in between, remain silent. Hire a lawyer that you trust, and if at some point it makes sense to tell the police officers what happened, you'll do that with your attorney.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. That is a great training tidbit for sure. I'm going to include all your information in the case notes. Thank you so much, Hannah, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Caitlin. Super nice to be here. This was fun.
Thanks.